Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths that is based on the advanced information given to us by the exam boards. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. In this question we've got euros and we've got pounds, and we're told that £1 is 2.23 euros. And we're trying to get to understand what 2,676 euros is in pounds. And we're going to do that by finding out what €1 is and then finding out how much 2,676 are. So to get from 2.23 to 1, we divide by 2.23, and we're going to do that on both sides. And when we do that, we get 0.448 blah blah blah. And then to get from 1 to 2,676, we are times by 2,676 on both sides. And when we do that, we get £1,200. So 2,676 euros is £1,200. To get from the length of a square to the area, we square the length. To work backwards, what we do is we square root, because the inverse of square is square root. So we've got 196, and we're going to square root it to find the length. So we work out the square root of 196, which is what number times itself is 196. And you should learn them from 1 to 15, so you should know all of the square numbers from 1 to 15. So you should know that the answer is 14. So the length therefore is 14. So to work out what the perimeter is going to be the distance around the square. So if I draw a square out, we know that each of these lengths are 14. So it's just going to be 14 times 4, which will be 56. The first piece of information I'm going to focus on is the fact Denver gets 8/19. Denver gets 8/19. That means that Engel and Fido together must get 11/19 because they have to add up to 1. So we're only looking at 11/19. I'm going to focus on the ratio next of Engel to Fido. So it's 9 to 5. And let's have a look and see, well, first of all, how many parts there are all together. So 9 plus 5, which is 14 parts. So there are 14 parts in total, and the share that they get is 11/19. So what I'm going to do is to find out what fraction one of those parts is worth by dividing 11/19 by 14. So each part is worth, and I'm just going to keep this into my calculator, 0.041 blah blah blah. And we're asked to find Fido's share. Well, Fido has 5 parts. So Fido has 5 parts, each of them worth 0.041 blah blah blah. I've kept it in my calculator to keep the accuracy, and when I do that I get 0.206 blah blah blah. Now we're asked to work it out as a percent, so I'm just going to times that by 100. So we have 20.676 blah 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 percent. And it wants it rounded to the nearest percent, so that would be 20%. Or actually, it would be 21%, because this would round it up. So 21%. I'm just going to write the question out, so we've got a little bit bigger writing to play with here. And it doesn't actually matter which method you expand these brackets with. I'm going to use Smars and Rainbows, so we multiply the 8 by the 10x, which will make 80x, and multiply the 8 by the 4, which will make 32. Now here we've got a minus 5 on the outside. So we do minus 5 times 8x, which is minus 40x. And minus 5 times minus 4, which is actually plus 20. And a lot of students will write take away 20 there, but that is a minus 5 on the outside of the brackets there. So it's minus 5 times the minus 4 there will give you a plus 20. Then 80x take away 40x, which will give us 40x. And 32 plus 20, which would be 52. So our answer would be 40x plus 52. There's a lot going on with this question, so I'm going to start off just having a look at the total amount of money. So I'm going to do this in pence, so 2,115 pence. And if each merit point is worth 3 pence, then we can work out the amount of merit points by doing 2,115 divided by 3. So that gives us 705. So there's 705 merit points. Next, have a look at the question here, this part here, where it says James has X merit points. Sarah has 4 times as many points as James, so she's going to have 4x. Robert has 69 fewer merit points than James, so he's going to have x minus 69. And we know that that equals 705 because we've just worked that out. And this feels like a solving coming on. So we've got x plus 4x plus x, which is 6x. Minus 69 equals 705. And we're going to add 69 to both sides. So we've got 6x equals 774. Then we're going to divide 6 both sides. And so we've got x equals 129. So x equals 129. That means James has 129. Sarah has 4 times more, so she will have 516. And Robert has 69 fewer, so we're going to take 69 away from that, and that will equal 60. So it's really important, first of all, we make clear about how we convert things. So if I've got a unit in kilometers, and I want to convert it into meters, then we know we just times it by 1,000. So 2 kilometers is 2,000 meters. But if I have something in kilometers squared, and I want to convert it into meters squared, I actually times it by 1,000 squared, which is 1,000 times 1,000. Okay, so I'm actually times it by not 1,000, but 1,000 squared. So that's another 3 zeros. You can see here that that's a million. So we times it by a million. So 13 kilometers squared is going to be the 13, and then it's going to be times by a million. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 13 million. Now, it says here the farmer must pay 1 pence tax for every metre squared. So this is going to be 13 million metres squared. And so that's going to cost him, or her, 13 million pence. But the answer is going to be in pounds. So we just need to get rid of 2 of the zeros at the end. So it's going to be 13, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be £130,000. So in this question we are told that the centre of enlargement is at 6, 4. So let's just put across there. And what I'm going to do is just draw ray lines from the centre of enlargement, and we're just going to go through each of the corners of our shape A. And we're going to just check whether it goes through the corner of shape B, which it does on this one. Let's just keep going. Yeah, it does on this one. But it does not on this one. So it says find the coordinate of the vertex of shape B that is not correct. So the coordinate is this one here. And so that would be -4, 1. So angles on a point add up to 360. And we are given the values of the angles, but in terms of r. So we know that r plus 9r plus 20 will equal 360. So we've got an equation here we can solve. So first of all, let's add the r's together. And so that will be 10r plus 20 equals 360. Then we're going to subtract the 20 from both sides. So we have 10r equals 340. And then we're going to divide by 10 both sides. So we have r equals 34. So our answer is 34. So we know that the equation of all linear graphs, which we have here, is going to follow the y equals mx plus c. And we need to find out what the m and the c are. So we're going to first of all work out what the gradient is. So that's going to be m. And the gradient is the change in y over change in x. And a different way we can write that is y2, so the y coordinate of the second coordinate, the y component in the second coordinate, take away y1, over x2, take away x1. And so y2 is going to be the y coordinate of the second component, which is there. That's going to be 40, take away y1, which is going to be 31. And then that's going to be over then the x component, so 24, take away 18, which is the x component for the first equation. So it's going to be 9 over 6, which is going to be 3 over 2, because it's just simple cancelling. So we know that m is 3 over 2, so we can actually just write out that that's going to be 3 over 2x. But we still don't know what the y-intercept is. So what we can do is have a look at the first coordinate. And for the first coordinate, we've got an x and y coordinate. So we know what x and y are. So what I'm going to do is just write out the equation I've just written out. But instead of writing y, I'm going to write in 31. Instead of writing x, I'm going to substitute in the 18. So it's going to be 31 equals 3 over 2 times, and the x component was 18 for our first coordinate, and then we've got the plus c. And so all we need to do now is solve it. So there's going to be quite a few components here. We're going to do 3/2 of 18 first of all. So 3 over 2 times 18, well, that's going to be 27. And then we're going to subtract 27 both sides. And when we do that, we get the fact that c equals 4. Now if we know what c equals 4, we can then substitute that into what we know. So it's 3 over 2x, and we know that c is 4, so it's going to be plus 4. Let's write that in our answer. So 3 over 2, it could be 3x over 2. You could put the x into the fraction, and then plus 4. So the symbol here basically means and the way I remember it is if you draw that symbol and just put a line through it, you can make the word and. So we're looking at the probability of getting something that is in A and C. So the only ones that are in A and C are this 8 and this 9 here. So we're going to just add the 8 and the 9 together, which give us 17. Now we need to then work out how many numbers there are in total, so that's all of them. So 4 plus 8 plus 9 plus 5 plus 8 plus 3 plus 11 plus 6. So we need the total, which is 54. And then we get the 17, and we put that over the amount in total, so over 54. So when we say y is directly proportional to x, what we mean is whenever x doubles, y will double. Whenever x halves, y will halve. Now, we've got this proportionality sign here. And to make that an equals, all we need to do is introduce a k constant to the right-hand side. So it's y equals something times x. Now, to find out what that something is, to find out what that constant is, what we're going to do is feed in the value of y and the value of x that we have. So we're going to feed those in. So y is 55.3 and x is 7. So it would be 7k. And we're just going to put our lines in and solve this. So it's going to be divide by 7 both sides. And 55.3 divided by 7 is 7.9. And that's what k is. So we're going to rewrite this equation here, this formula here, y equals 7.9x. And that is actually our answer. The first thing that we can actually work out for this Venn diagram is this part here. So it says 12 had a cat but not a dog. So the cat but not a dog is showed with this A here. So if 12 had a cat but not a dog, and in total 22 had a cat, we're going to do 22 take away 12, which is 10. So 10 had a cat and a dog. If 16 had a dog and 10 also had a cat, that means that 6 had a dog. Let's make sure we fill these in. And if overall there were 31 people and there were 12 who just had a cat, 10 who had a cat and a dog, and 6 who had a dog, that leaves 3 left over. So there's a few different ways of working out this question, but they all involve working out the area of the cross-section. And the cross-section is the part here. So we want to work out the area of this. And what we can do, and this is one of the methods, is we can work out the area of the full rectangle, which will be 28 by 19. I'm going to call this A. And then we can take away the little part that is not there. So the missing part, which is going to be 14 across. We've got to do a bit of maths here to work out how high it is. So we've got 28 in total, 21 we don't want, so that would be 7 high. We're going to call this B. So work out the area of A. It's going to be 28 times 19. Which is 532. Work out the area of B, which is going to be 98. And then to work out the area of the cross-section, we're going to do the big rectangle, take away the small one, take away the bit we have missing, and that will leave 434. Now the volume of any prism is area of cross-section, so cross-section area times the length. So our area of cross-section is 434. Our length is basically how 3D the shape is, so it's going to be 10. And so that would be 4,340. So our answer is 4,340 centimeters cubed. To find the pressure, we need the area and the force. And we're given the force in the question, and so all we need to do is find out what the area is, which will be the 7 times the 9, which will be 63 centimeters squared. And the force is given to us in the question, so what we can do is write down the pressure formula, which says that pressure equals the force divided by the area. Force is given to us as 2268. The area we've calculated is 63. Divide the 2 and you get 36. So it's going to be 36 newtons per centimetre squared. So this question says that Adrian, Ben and Charlie have some sweets, and the ratio of Adrian to Ben to Charlie is 9 to 6 to 13. But it also says that Charlie got 56 more sweets than Adrian. So there's 56 more sweets. Well, looking at the actual parts of the ratio, there are 4 more parts. So plus 4 parts. which represents plus 56 sweets. So the 4 extra parts are worth 56 sweets. So 4 parts are worth 56 sweets. So 1 part would be 56 divided by 4, which is 14 sweets. So all we need to do now is work out how many parts there are. Well, there are 9 plus 6 plus 13 parts, which is 28. And each part is worth 14 sweets. So the total number of sweets will be 28 times 14. So 28 times 14 is 392. So for this question, what we need to do is factorise 4t plus 6. Now factorise means put it into brackets. So if I try, what I can do is I can actually put a 1 on the outside here. So 1 times 4t plus 6 is 4t plus 6, but the question clearly states that it is higher than 1. So we need to find another number that's higher than 1 to factorise this with. So if we look at 4t and 6, well, they're both in the 2 times table. So I can put a 2 on the outside here. 2 times 2t is 4t, and 2 times 3 is 6. So what we can do is we can just check that out with smiles and rainbows. Put all my times down there to remind me to times it. So 2 times 2t is 4t, 2 times 3 is 6. So that works because that is the same as this in the question. So we know that 2 times 2t plus 3 works. In fact, it's the only one that works with it being an integer. So we therefore know that the known side, because it says it's a known number, is 2. And the other side will be 2t plus 3. And then when you multiply them together, you get the area of 4t plus 6. So our answer, because it says the length is the known number, so that's the length, then we're finding the width, which is this one here. So it's 2t plus 3. To be able to work out this question, we need to work out the amount of student hours required to paint the wall. And to work that out, we've got 6 students and it takes them 11 hours. So 6 times 11 means it's going to take 66 student hours. So if we had 1 student, it would take 66 hours. 2 students would be half of that because they share the work, and etc, etc. So here we've got 6 students and it take 11 hours. And it says how long will it take 7 students? Well, if there's 66 hours, or student hours, but they're sharing the time, we just divide 66 by 7. So 66 divided by 7 is 9.428, blah, blah, blah. And it says it wants its 2 decimal places, so it will take them 9.43 hours. Now check this makes sense. We've got 6 students and it takes them 11 hours. So we'd think if we had more students helping to paint the wall, it would take less hours. So we've gone from 11 hours to about 9.5. So that sounds right. So we're going to first of all convert the 11 litres into millilitres. So we're going to do 11 times 1,000, which would be 11,000. Okay, so we're going to just draw a line, like a number line. And we're going to have the 11,000 in the middle. Now, what would be the next one down if we're looking at to the nearest 10 mil? So we're going to add a 10 mil on, which will be 11,010, and we're going to take the 10 mil away. So 11,000 take away 10 mil will be 10, 990. Now when we're looking at limits with the upper and lower part of it, we are looking at halfway points. So halfway here and halfway here. So this halfway point will be 10,995, and the next one will be 11,005, and that's the halfway points. And so that is going to be our upper and lower bound. And we just need to say that V can be anything above the 10,995 and including that, and it can be anything below 11,005, but it can't include that, because if it was 11,005, it would have rounded up to 11,010. So we're going to start off with 100%, and it says that the card depreciates. That means goes down by, so it goes down by 1.7% every year. So we do 100 take away 1.7, which is 98.3, and that's percent. And we want that as a decimal, or as a multiplier we call it. And so we just divide it by 100 to make it into a decimal, 0.983. And that's our multiplier. And the beautiful thing about a multiplier is we just need the amount of years. Well, it says from 1980 to 1985. So that's going to be 5 years. So it's going to be 5 years. And so what we do is we get the original amount, which was 2,245, and times it by the multiplier 5 times. Now I can't be bothered on my calculator to times it by 0.983 5 times. So what you can do is you can do it to the power of 5, which basically means the same thing. And that gives us 2060.553. And when we round that, that would be £2,060 and 55 pence. So we need to first of all work out what the length of the side of the square is. And to do that, what we do is we get the 44v to the power 4 w to the power 5, and we just divide it by 4. And to do that, all we need to do is just divide the coefficient by 4. So it'd be 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5. Some people will try and do something with the v to the power 4 w to the power 5, but if you think about it, if I just draw out my square, if it's 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5 all the way around, when you add, you don't add the v to the power 4 w to the power 5, it's just going to be 11 lots, another 11 lot, another lot of 11, and another lot of 11. So it's 44 v to the power 4 w to the power 5 in total. And to work out what the area is, we obviously are going to square that. So we're going to do 11 v to the power 4 w to the power 5, and we're going to just times it by itself, which is what squaring means. Okay, so we're going to times the 11s together, so that's going to be 121. Going to times the v to the power 4s together, and remember with indices, if you times two powers of the same base and they're both v, then we just add the powers together, so that'd be 8, and we're going to add the w to the power 5s together, so that makes 10. So it's 121 v to the power of 8 w to the power of 10. The equation of any straight line can be written as y equals mx plus c. So we need to find the gradient, which is m, and the y-intercept, which is c, for this line. Now, we are given a clue. We're told that it's parallel to this equation here, but we're not really interested in the plus 5 at the end. What we're interested in is what the gradient of this line is, which is 11, because all parallel lines have the same gradient. So we actually know what the gradient is for the line we're trying to work out. It's going to be the same because it's parallel, so it's going to be 11. So all we need to do now is find out what that plus c is. And what we're going to do is we're going to substitute in the values of x and y for the coordinate we're given on the line. So it's going to be 46 equals 11 times 4 plus c. And we just need to solve this. So first thing I'm going to do is just times the 11 and the 4 together to make 44. And then I'm just going to take away the 44 from both sides. So we get 2 equals c, or c equals 2. And we can put that into our equation. And that is our answer. So it's going to be 11x plus 2. A box plot starts with the lowest value, Then it goes to the lower quartile. So we have the lowest value, then the lower quartile, and then we have the median, then the upper quartile, and then the highest value. So lowest value is at 1 on this one, and normally we just put a little kind of line at the end here. So we're going to put a line at 1, and I'm just going to put that line there. Ooh, a little bit further to the right. There we go. And our lower quartile is 9, which is kind of where the box starts. So we're just going to start a box there. We're just going to connect these up. There we go. And our median is 11, so we're just going to show that. Quite a thin box plot so far. Now it says the interquartile range is 5. Now the interquartile range is the distance here. So that's 5. So it's going to be 5 more than the lower quartile. If the lower quartile is at 9, it would be 9 plus 5, which will be 14. So if we get our line at 14, and then complete our box plot. Here we go. Now the range is the total distance of, or the total width of our box plot. So that's 17. So that's going to be 17 higher than the lowest value. Now the lowest value is 1, so 1 plus 17 is going to be 18. So I'm just going to, there we are. And we're going to have that at 18. And again, I'm just going to put a line there. Whenever we're asked to compare two box plots or two cumulative frequency graphs or a cumulative frequency graph and a box plot, you're always going to be comparing two things. You're going to be comparing the median and the interquartile range. Now if we do a little table, like a good table, and we've got male and female, and we're going to work out the median, which is the first thing we have to compare, and the interquartile range. And it can actually just be the normal range. We don't need to pick the interquartile range. So the median for male is this line here, this bit here. And if you look down, that is 22. And for females, it's this one here. If you look down, that's 18. And we just go write a sentence. So you say something like the median is higher for males, brackets 22, always show your values, than for females, brackets 18. Okay, easy. Next we're going to do interquartile range. Interquartile range is slightly harder because you need to do the distance between the upper quartile, which is this line here, and the lower quartile, which is this line here. And so that would be 24 take away 19, which would be 5. And for the females, it would be 28, which is this one here, take away 16, which is this one here, and that will give you the answer of 12. So the next sentence we say is the interquartile range. They don't mind you writing IQR, that's absolutely fine. Is, now you can say lower for males or higher for females. I'm going to say lower for males, brackets 5, than for females, bracket 12. Now the median is basically on average the males are higher. Okay, so it's just an average, says on average they're higher. The interquartile range is an interesting one. Anything to do with range is about consistency. So it's actually quite good in many instances to have a lower interquartile range because it just shows you're more consistent. So you say the sentence could be that the males are more consistent because the interquartile range is lower. Generally speaking, the higher the median, the better. The lower the interquartile range, the better. Apart from if you're talking about things that like the time it took you for a race, you kind of want the median to be lower. Still, you want the interquartile range to be lower because you want to be consistent. I'm going to start by labeling this triangle, and so I'm going to pick a lowercase a here, uppercase A I mean, for the angle, and then we go opposite it to mark the length with a lowercase a. I'm going to do a capital B here, and then go opposite it to do a lowercase b, and then obviously a capital C here, and then a lowercase c here. Now notice the C's aren't involved in this question at all. It's just the capital A and the lowercase a, and the capital B and the lowercase b. Now when you've got two pairs of angles and sides, you're going to be using the sine rule. Now, the sine rule is either sine A over A, or it's A over sine A. Now, when we're looking for a length, we put the length on the top. So it's going to be lowercase a over sine capital A equals lowercase b over sine capital B. Okay, so we're going to fill in the values. So A is x, capital A is 38, lowercase b is 4, and uppercase B is 67. Now you'll only ever sine an angle, so if you ever put a 4 in there or something, that's not going to be right straight away. Okay, let's work out what 4 over sine 67 is, and that's 4.345 blah blah blah. So we're going to solve this. It's going to be a nice easy solve today, because all we need to do is times both sides by sine 38. And so that will give us 2.675 blah blah blah, and when we round that we get 2.68. So the way functions work is that they actually queue up, and the function nearest the brackets is the first one to go. So the f will be the first function we look at. So all I'm going to do is just leave the g on the outside and just put a set of brackets down. So to do f of 4, all we do is we feed in that 4 into where x is in the function f of x. So instead of 5 times x, it will be 5 times 4, which is just going to be 20. Now that's the f of x sorted, and we're now going to look at the g of x. The g of x says that it's going to be 3 plus 2 lots of whatever's fed in, and we're going to feed in that 20. So it's going to be 3 plus 2 times the number we're feeding in, which is 20. And 2 times 20 is 40, and then 3 plus 40 will be 43. So our answer will be 43. Capture-Recapture is a way of estimating total population sizes, and it uses a really nice formula, which is n equals little n times little m over big M. Now, n and n, the little ones, are are sample sizes. Okay, so they're the size of each sample, and this big M here is the amount that were marked in the second sample. Okay, so n is the first sample, m is the second sample size, and then m is marked. So marked in the second sample, because obviously you're going to mark all of them in the first sample. So what you do is you catch an amount of trout in this case, mark them all with any kind of marking, and then you capture again, and capital M is the amount that were marked from the first sample in your second sample, and then capital N is the estimated population size. So that's what you think the overall population size is going to be. So here we caught a sample of 84 and tagged them all, and then we released them. Then we caught a sample of 56, and we found that 15 were tagged. And so when you do the sums on that, it's going to be 313.6. And when you round it to the nearest integer, because obviously you can't get 0.6 of a trout, we estimate it to be 314. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just a quick sketch of this diagram. So we're told the lengths are 8 and 6, and the angle between the lengths is 64 degrees. And we've kind of got a missing length down here which we need to find. So we need to find that one. Okay, so let's label them. Now we're going to be using the cosine formula. So cosine formula involves angle A. So we're going to label the angle A. And the one opposite, the one we label as A, is going to be little a. And then little b and little c, it doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter which way around you do them. So we're going to write down the cosine formula. So it's a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. And so that would be x squared equals, and that will be 8 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 8 times 6 times cos 64. And that will be x squared equals 57.916 blah blah blah. And we just need to solve this, and we can solve it by just square rooting both sides. So it would be x equals 7.61000 blah blah blah. Okay, we're asked for the perimeter, and so we need to do 8 plus 6 plus that 7.610 blah blah blah. I've still got on my calculator, and that equals 21.610 blah blah blah. It says it wants its 2 decimal places, so it will be 21.61. First thing to notice is we actually have 2 radii here. So we've got this radius here and this radius here, and all radii are always equal in length. So we have an isosceles triangle here. So this angle here is going to be 19x as well, and we've got to write that down. So we're going to say angle OBA is equal to 19x, and the reason is it's an isosceles triangle. Okay, so we know these two are equal. Well, we also can work out x because, as I said before, we have a triangle here, and all angles in a triangle add up to 180. So we've got 7x plus 19x plus 19x equals 180 degrees, and this is angles in a triangle. Try and draw a better triangle, equal 180 degrees. Try and write out these reasons in full. Okay, so that's going to be, was it 45x equals 180, and let's get our solving lines in, and we're just going to divide both sides by 45. Okay, so we've got x equals 180 divided by 45, which is 4. Now we're looking for this angle here. That's angle ABC. Now there's a few different ways we could do this. We could work out what this angle is, because it's a big triangle, etc, etc. Or we can use the fact that we've got a tangent touching a radius. So we know that this, let's just pick a different colour, this angle here is 90 degrees. So we can write that down. So angle OBC equals 90 degrees, because it's the angle between a tangent and a radius. Again, make sure you write all the reasons in full. And so therefore, angle ABC, which is what we're asked for, is just 90, take away the 19x. Well, we know that 19x is 19 times 4, because we know that x is 4. And so that would be 76, so in total it would be 14 degrees. So angle ABC is 14 degrees. So we're told that y is inversely proportional to the cube root of x. And to get rid of this proportionality sign here, we just convert it to an equals and times the right hand side by k, which represents a constant. And we now need to figure out what that constant is. So we're going to feed in the value of y and x that's given to us in the question. So we've got 10 equals k over the cube root of 343. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to solve that. So put our lines in. Now the cube root of 343 is 7, so we can actually just, it's a lot easier, and we're just going to times both sides by 7. So k equals 70, and we're just going to rewrite this, but instead of k, we're just going to write 70. So y equals 70 over the cube root of x. It's always important with these questions to realise what the normal graph will look like before we have a look at what the new function will look like. So it's always good to remind yourself what a y equals sine x graph looks like, and it fluctuates between 1 and -1. If I write a -1, and it goes up first of all at 90, goes back down at 180, down to -1 at 270, and then back up at 360. So it's just a simple sketch to help us figure out what's going on with the transformed one. So first thing I notice is there is a negative here, which just means it will be flipped in the x-axis. So this would become like this. And there's also a 2 there, so we're multiplying all the y coordinates by 2. So instead of this going down to -1, it will start by going down to -2, and it will go up all the way to 2. So we've got a nice idea of how this will look, and so we're going to just start plotting this now, I think. So it will go down at 90, which is, so there, to -2, back up to 180 at 0, and then back up to 2 at 270, down to 360, and then it will just go again, 540, up there, and then back down. Not the perfect, not the best graph I've ever drawn, but I think the examiner will understand that I know what the graph will look like, so don't panic about making too many mistakes when you're drawing curves. Just try your best to get it as low as possible, but don't go back and start feathering the lines or anything. A +1 inside the brackets will mean that we're doing the opposite. So a +1 you'd think would move the graph right 1, but it doesn't. It moves the graph left 1. So we're just going to go through each of the points on the graph, and we're just going to shift the points to the left 1. And when we do that, we get something like this. And then obviously we need to join these up with one straight line, which I've already failed at doing. And there we go. To find the inverse, we're going to first of all, instead of writing f of x, I'm just going to replace it with a y. And the trick of finding the inverse is to swap over the x and the y. So we're going to swap them over. I'm just going to do it over to the right hand side over here, so we've got a bit of space. Now the challenge is to get it so that it's y equals rather than x equals. So we're going to start off by multiplying both sides by 4. And that will give us 4x on the left hand side, and it will get rid of the fraction on the right hand side, which was kind of the point. Next we're going to get rid of that -6, so we're going to add 6 both sides. And then finally we're going to get rid of that times 5 there by dividing both sides by 5. So we've got 4x plus 6 over 5 equals y. And we use y as a replacement for the inverse function of x. And so we're just going to say the inverse function of x, which is what that -1 means. It means inverse, equals 4x plus 6 over 5. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.